I am at the Zimbabwe Mercantile Exchange in Harare's central business district, where you can buy and sell agricultural produce virtually. Now, the ZMX is part of the Financial Securities Exchange, FINSEC. The Chief Executive Officer of that organization is my guest on this edition of the Focus Weekly. Stay tuned. Well, hello viewers. Today I'm joined by the Chief Executive Officer of FINSEC, that is the Financial Securities Exchange, Mr. Collen Tapfumaneyi. Sir, great to have you on the show. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Indeed. Now, I suppose before we get into the main focus of our discussion tonight, let's have an understanding of who FINSEC is.
FINSEC, as you introduced it, Financial Securities Exchange, is registered as a securities exchange. Previously, people, referred to them as stock exchanges, but we are now talking of securities because we've gone beyond stocks. There are quite a number of other securities. So it's a registered securities exchange, but licensed under what is called alternative trading platform category. So there is the main securities exchange where you find the ZSEs and VFX. Then there is the next layer, which is alternative trading platforms, under which FINSEC is registered to provide a platform for trading, as the name suggests, alternative securities.
So let's get straight into it. What are some of those alternatives that you're offering?
So alternative securities can be equities, but special type of equities. For example, our first listing was for indigenization-focused equities, bonds, mutual funds, derivatives, and ETFs, REITs, property funds, all the alternatives that go beyond just the normal standard equities.
Are those things gaining traction? Because, when you look at developed markets, these things exist and we hear about them, but not so much here.
There's a lot of work to be done for them to be appreciated by the targeted audience. They are gaining traction because a market comprises of two sides, the supply and demand. There is a demand for capital and the supply of capital. So demand for capital is, limitless. So entities, organizations, SMEs, agricultural value chain players, mining value chain players, they are always in need of capital. And alternative securities provide a different means of raising capital. So the demand is there. But then we turn to the supply of capital, where we are looking at investors. Obviously, they have to get to understand what these securities entail or what they mean. So there's quite a bit of work to be done, but there's a lot of excitement because investors want to diversify their portfolios and have them, extend in terms of their risk management, go beyond the traditional securities. So there is excitement.
Are you mainly targeting retail investors, as we see on ZSE, or perhaps your institutional sort of players?
As an alternative trading platform, we came onto the market with an agenda to really focus on retail. We were behind the establishment of C-Trade, which was actually specifically designed to make it easy for retail investors to be able to access some of these investment opportunities. That is our passion. But of course, we are open to institutional investors, but we believe that there is a huge untapped opportunity to get retail investors to come into the mainstream capital markets. The major reason is that because we have a huge part of our economy being informal, the concern that you would have is, are people saving for their retirement? And how do you save? Now, these alternative investment opportunities are one of the means by which retail investors, even informal people, can actually save a little bit for the rainy day, but most importantly, for when they retire, when they can no longer work. So our focus is retail.
Mm-hmm. I suppose the main thing, as you say, quite a lot of work to do to educate the market. Do you think there's appetite? Do you think people appreciate that? Or is there that culture, as you said, informalization, where people are just living day to day?
It's a very interesting question. I'll use a very interesting example of why we believe there is potential as well as appetite. Pyramid schemes. Why is it when someone comes up with a pyramid scheme, in a matter of weeks, they would have collected so much money, which they ran away with? It is because the retail investors, they are looking for where to save, where to invest, and where to get good returns. It's just that the people who are closest to them sometimes are clandestine, sometimes use unorthodox means, they are not honest, which then taints the whole concept of investment. So when we are going out to the retail investors, we need to be aware that there is potential, there is appetite, but at the same time, it is the same retail market that is vulnerable to all these other shenanigans, which means we have to now separate between the actual normal investment opportunities and these other funny things that are done by these clandestine groups.
And also manage expectations of get rich quick, where I put money today, tomorrow I'm tripling it.
That's what we need to educate our retail investors on. Easy come, easy go. You are promised unbelievable returns. That must be a red signal. So as part of the education, we need to also instill the patience that for you to get solid, sustainable returns, you have to be realistic about the returns that you are getting. So once we are able to overcome that, then we should be able to start making inroads. But what is very exciting is that even as we speak, without a lot of education, because there's a lot of investment that needs to go in, we still have quite a lot that are coming through, that are buying, that are investing and all that. But we need to spread the word.
Indeed. We'll take a short break now and continue this discussion. Collen Tapfumaneyi, Chief Executive Officer of FINSEC, is my guest. Stay tuned. Welcome back. The Focus Weekly continues with me, Farai Mwakutuya, my guest, Collen Tapfumaneyi, Chief Executive Officer of FINSEC. One of the maybe SBUs, or one of your entities as FINSEC, which has come to the market, which is quite active now, is ZMX, Zimbabwe Mercantile Exchange. What is that?
So, as I mentioned earlier, FINSEC is registered as an alternative trading platform. And you earlier asked what alternative securities are, and I mentioned very many. One additional instrument that we decided we wanted to bring on board was the commodity trading. So initially wanted to do it under FINSEC, but because FINSEC is a financial securities exchange, which is regulated on the financial side of things, commodities are physical and they are regulated separately. So a separate entity had to be set up, which then became Zimbabwe Mercantile Exchange. Zimbabwe Mercantile Exchange, when we set it up as a partnership that involved FINSEC and TSL, CBZ Holdings, as well as the government of Zimbabwe as a stakeholder. So it's a standalone commodities exchange, but operated by FINSEC. Now, Zimbabwe Mercantile Exchange is there now to automate the commodity markets. So the difference between the commodity markets and the securities markets is that on the securities market, we are trading securities, financial securities instruments. On the commodity markets, we are trading the actual physical commodities. However, because it's not practical to move thousands of tons of physical agricultural commodities to a certain market so that you trade, we then had to innovate and come up with what we call a warehouse receipt system, in which now ZMX operates a warehouse receipt system that enables holders of commodities to deposit their commodities into certified warehouses, and then they are issued with a warehouse receipt, which is now an instrument that they can now bring to ZMX to trade. That instrument now represents the physical commodity that is staying in the physical warehouses all over the country. So that is what ZMX is there to do. Firstly, to operate a warehouse receipt system to ensure proper storage of the physical commodities. Secondly, provide a trading platform where those receipts are traded. And thirdly, and most importantly, to provide financing to both our farmers and our agro processors, so that they have liquidity and finance to be able to interact with each other.
Which commodities are currently trading?
So far we have 7. We have started with maize auction. We have also listed soybeans. We have put on barley. We have sugar beans. We have both red and white sorghum, and we have millet. Yes.
Why, as a farmer, would I want to come to this market when I can, simply, as I've been doing, perhaps go to Mbare? Guys, we often hear of people driving their trucks onto people's farms and saying, all this grain is now mine, or all this wheat is now mine. Why should I come to the market?
So I think this speaks to the problem that we set to solve. And there are many problems. And we were looking at post-harvest challenges that our farmers face. The first problem was the storage. You may or may not be aware that without proper storage facilities, post-harvest losses amount to about 30% of the produce. So collectively, as our farmers, before they even go to the market, they've lost 30% of the value. So they are already on the back foot. Then you get to the market. Now, so there is that issue of storage, post-harvest losses. Beyond that, now you look at the challenge of finding a market. So basically, without a structured market, you then have to now look for a market. Fine, for certain commodities, people know where to go, the Grain Marketing Board, cotton, and all that stuff. But those are just 1 or 2 of the many, many commodities. Where do you sell your oranges? Where do you sell your cabbages? Where do you sell your... So you've got now to figure out and work out where to find those markets. And because time is of the essence, because commodities are perishable, most of them are perishable, you've got to make very quick decisions. And those quick decisions may be influenced by the very next person who comes to you, knowing that there is that problem. Then they come and offer you, 50% of the value of a commodity. And because time is of the essence, you are forced to accept that. That is a problem. That problem comes out of information asymmetry. So the farmer doesn't have information. They don't know what the correct prices throughout the country are. So they don't have the information. They don't have access to the market. They are faced with storage losses and all that. To solve all these problems, you come up with an organized marketplace that operates a structured warehouse receipt system that first and foremost ensures that the commodity is put in safe, secure, and well-structured storage. So you cut out that 30% loss. Then after that, you then go onto a very simple platform, because this platform is available online on the mobile phones and all that. You go on there on the ZMX and you actually can see all the information in terms of what are the current prices. Not only that, when you place an order to sell your commodity, you are at liberty to put a price of your choice. And then the buyer can respond to that price. And the buyer may come with a lower price. You can decide to lower the price, or the buyer can decide to raise their price. And that's how the market should work. So that whole thing that you can do of negotiating by word of mouth, now we are providing that capability on a platform that a farmer can access from the comfort of their farm. So that is the problem that we sought to address.
And also avoiding those distortions, because someone may be a better negotiator than the other and therefore get a better price, but you are guided that this is the range, and so...
Absolutely. So what happens then is that as many people, hundreds and thousands of farmers are placing their various prices and buyers are doing the same, eventually the correct price, you settle at the correct price. If someone is saying, say for maize, they want $400 per ton, and another is saying $500 per ton, the majority are saying $320 per ton. By just looking at what the majority are doing, your perceptions can be corrected and you come up with the correct price. It's the same thing with the buyers. So eventually it's a democratic process in which now the price that becomes the most traded price is the one that is most popular on the both sides. The most popular price on the buyer side, the most popular price on the seller side. If it coincides, it becomes the market price. Then when you look at the market now, when you see that price, you know it has not been determined by one person. It has been determined by all the farmers and all the buyers on the platform.
Indeed. We'll take another short break and continue this discussion. It is the Focus Weekly. Do stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. The Focus Weekly continues. Mr. Tapfumaneyi, before we went to the break, you were talking about some of the commodities that are trading on the Mercantile Exchange. A couple of weeks ago, I remember seeing an event where the Permanent Secretary of Agriculture was there. And perhaps this speaks to my next question. You speak of maize, you speak of wheat. All along, we've thought that is the preserve or the domain of GMB. Are you a competitor?
No. So, previously, some commodities were controlled commodities in terms of their marketing, which meant someone in a government agent had to buy because they were controlled. But the government has taken a policy decision to liberalize the market and say, if you are self-financed, you can sell to whoever you want to sell to. Now, when we came on board as ZMX, like I mentioned, we are looking at a warehouse receipt system. And you need independent warehouse operator. The largest independent warehouse operator in this country is GMB. So they became our first partner. So we are partners with GMB, and GMB will focus on their core role of storage and maintaining a strategic grain reserve. But also they buy on behalf of the government. So there's nothing stopping them from either buying directly from the farmer or buying through ZMX. So we coexist. We are complementary in terms of our activities. So in this in this situation now, we rely heavily on them, and the market now, those who are eligible to sell. So there are those who are funded by the government. Obviously, they have to sell to government, and they sell back to GMB. Those who are free to sell to anybody, they are not forced to sell to ZMX. Neither are they forced to sell to GMB. However, if they buy into the facilities and advantages being offered by ZMX, they can then come to ZMX to sell through ZMX. If GMB is short of a strategic grain, they can also buy through ZMX.
So talking about those who can access ZMX, is there a particular size of farmer? Do I have to have achieved a certain tonnage for me to qualify, or can any farmer come through?
It's open. It's open. Any farmer of any size can come through. We even have, the unit of trade is kgs, so you can sell, your 2 bags, you can sell your 3 bags of maize, but you can also equally sell your 10,000 tons. The system is flexible, it's robust, and it can take care of the small and large farmers. So yes, it is available to everybody.
Indeed. What other benefits are there to farmers? Was obviously, yes, you spoke about, cutting out this post-harvest loss. How else does a farmer stand to benefit?
So when a farmer gets a warehouse receipt, they are not forced to just use that warehouse receipt to sell the commodity. That warehouse receipt gives them the power to even delay selling. There are certain commodities, the behavior of markets throughout the world. When it is harvest time, that's when you have your biggest volumes coming onto the market. And the laws of economics say when there is a lot of supply, the price tends to come down. So at harvest time, just imagine when cabbages have been harvested and there are a lot throughout the country, the price will definitely come down. When there is shortage, the price tends to go up. So usually with a number of commodities, the price increases over time when you move away from harvest time. Now, a farmer can decide that when I've gotten my warehouse receipt, I may not necessarily want to sell when everyone else is selling. I'm going to hold because they are now happy that their commodity is safe and secure in the storage. So I'm going to hold. I'm going to hold for 2-3 months. When the supply is now starting to dry up, that's when I sell when the price is higher. That is a choice, an option that ZMX is providing to farmers. But then the reality is the farmer would have waited for 8-9 months, maybe. So to now have that ability to wait for another 3-4 months, they need liquidity. They need some finance from someone. So while they are waiting, they can use their warehouse receipt to get some liquidity for their day-to-day needs, or even for their next harvest, for their next planting needs. So a warehouse receipt can be used to access financing to actually finance the next season while you are waiting to sell when the price is high. So warehouse receipt financing is one of the biggest innovations that are to the benefit of the farmer.
Okay. Now, obviously, we've spoken quite a bit about ZMX, a number of commodities coming online. Are there plans to bring on other commodities, and when can we expect those?
So yes, but ZMX is focusing on agriculture, and so far we are covering grains and oilseeds. We have also been given approval to onboard horticultural commodities, and then and what excites us even most, livestock. So we will be bringing on board horticulture and livestock, which when we have done all that, it will bring up the commodities available on ZMX to 49. So that's what we are working hard on.
That's a big number. And is this purely, as you said, it's a market, buyers and sellers? Is it only domestic? Is there opportunity, say, for instance, for someone sitting in South Africa who may want commodities to come on that platform? Does that?
Technically, that's how it is designed. In the fullness of time, ZMX should facilitate exporting of commodities where our local farmers can actually find markets outside without having to go through middlemen and all that. So the buyers from outside can just go onto ZMX and place their orders, and the export kicks in. ZMX has got the potential to also facilitate imports. But obviously, there is a lot of logistical work that needs to be done, and quite a bit of banking facilities that need to be put in place. But that's part of the plans for ZMX.
One final question. I mean, obviously, when we talk about commodities, particularly agricultural, there's always this issue of grade, quality, things like that. How is that managed?
It's also one of the fundamental benefits of a commodity exchange. As I mentioned earlier, we are bringing in a warehouse receipt system. So warehouse receipt system comes in, it goes beyond just warehousing and storage. It brings in the issue of grading standards. So every commodity that is put into the ZMX warehouse receipt system is subjected to grading according to the international standards, and every warehouse receipt that is issued against a commodity will reflect the grade of that commodity. The farmer is then entitled to that grade when they want to withdraw their commodity or when they sell their commodity. So what happens on a commodity exchange when they are selling maize grade A will be traded as maize grade A with its own price. Maize grade C will be traded as maize grade C with its own price. What it does is it encourages farmers to also pay attention to quality, because quality is now being fairly rewarded. Unlike previously, the best farmer and the worst farmer, their commodities are mixed and they are paid the same. But with this system, it actually encourages better quality production.
Indeed. We must end the discussion here only because we're out of time, Mr. Tapfumaneyi, but so many exciting things on the horizon. We look forward to coming back to talk to you again. That was Collen Tapfumaneyi, Chief Executive Officer of FINSEC, Financial Securities Exchange. We're talking about some of the developments taking place on that market. Very exciting times, and we look forward to coming back and speaking to them again to catch up with their progress. I thank you so much for tuning in and for joining us. There are some details on your screen as to where you can follow us, like us, and share with us, share about us on social media. Please do so. We encourage you to do that. My name is Farai Makutuya. I'll be back again next time. Be sure to join me then. Bye-bye.